I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of this book, Nomad Capitalist, and this is Nomad Capitalist, where we do a deeper dive into the human side of the nomad capitalist lifestyle beyond the offshore tax planning, second citizenships, international investing, are the personal questions, the personal thoughts that all of us have about how to better live this lifestyle. And today I'm drinking a great tea in a different kind of the caviar tea tin. This is a happy birthday tea, actually brought to me by my friend Reed from Investation, who's been on our channel. He and his fiance brought this to me for my birthday in Macau about a year and a half ago. And it was really nice to have friends come in from the US, from Europe, from Thailand. And really, on a personal note, a great example of how even when you're living the nomad capitalist lifestyle, you can maintain friendships with folks who live other places. You can have them come in and visit you, or you can go and visit them for things like birthdays and holidays or New Year's, whatever it is that's important to you. So that is something that I always try and relate to people. But today I want to talk about another part of living the nomad capitalist lifestyle when it comes to business. And I'm inspired by an article from Business Insider, which came out earlier this year, talking about how some countries in Europe are actually refusing to bail out companies that are registered in tax havens, as they call them, right? Tax havens, the word that countries use to shame you for going where you're treated best. But the main points of this article basically said that Denmark and Poland, in this particular case, will not be giving financial aid from the coronavirus situation, from the government shutdown, to companies that are registered offshore. Governments obviously were scrambling to bail out their economies with these huge stimulus packages, and basically they were saying, hey, you know what? We're going to cut you off if you are registered in these countries. It's not fair to give you money. And while the word fair is, I think, used rather unfairly a lot of times, I have to say, you might be surprised, but in this case I actually agree, because here's my perspective on going offshore. Here's my perspective on going where you're treated best. Okay? There's a system that most people in the world subscribe to, not because they chose to, but because it was presented to them and they never cared to think any differently. They were born in a country. Maybe they immigrated to a country in some cases, but generally they're born there, they grew up there, they went to school, they got married, went to college, did everything in that country. And to this day, all their money is there, they pay their taxes there. They're totally tethered to that one country. Again, maybe somebody immigrated, maybe, by the miracle of having parents from two countries, they got two citizenships. But generally they're in one society. And those societies, they take a lot of your money, generally speaking, particularly the West. You pay very high taxes. And depending on where you're paying those taxes to, you may get some kind of benefits. You may get Social Security when you retire, or a pension. You may get some kind of free college tuition. You may get free education along the way. So there are all kinds of different things that you get from the government that you pay taxes for. Now, if you're a successful entrepreneur or investor, the value just isn't there. You're paying hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars a year, so you can send your kid to school and get a couple $1,000 off university tuition. Not really a great deal. But the other system that we talk about here is being intentional, choosing where do I want to go and get the most value for my money. And so you can incorporate your company somewhere. You can pay 0% or 2% or 5% tax or 10% and save yourself a lot of money. But for me, the trade-off there, if you're doing the full nomad capitalist lifestyle, where you are totally diversifying yourself and every part of your life you are going where you're treated best. Okay? Your company's incorporated in the most business-friendly, tax-friendly place. You are living in places that are personally tax-friendly and have a great lifestyle. You're a citizen of a country that leaves you alone. All these things. The trade-off of that is you're not going to get all the free stuff. So I have to be honest, I really don't have anything bad to say about these countries where it's like, hey, if you're not paying into our system, we're not going to give you the free money. My answer to that is, good, I don't need the free money. Because all these years, I've been being responsible, not only to myself and to my company and to my team members, by putting myself in a position where I go where I'm treated best. I have more money to save. we're able to build, in the case of my business, we built cash on hand so that we could weather storms like the one that all these other businesses are going out and asking for money. And so to me, it draws this very interesting distinction where, water seeks its own level. When you're living in this bubble of one country and everything is in one country, somehow so many people end up with zero at the end of the day. At the end of the paycheck, they have nothing because the taxes, the housing costs, the grocery costs, everything that they're paying for, it's market pricing based on where you are in this one country. And so many people end up with nothing. So they can't save. They can't set aside money for their business for a crisis. And then they have to go hat in hand with the government and take whatever terms the government offers, by the way. Where I'm from, the United States, the U.S. Government was giving out loans that people were calling grants, but yet the conditions weren't entirely set for what you needed to do to have forgiveness of the loan. And the government, of course, can change their mind at any time. So that's not a system that I want to be in. The system that I want to be in is a system where I'm earning money from one country, and basically my ecosystem allows me to save a lot more money because I'm not all in one bubble where everything is based on the market conditions in one country. I can make money from people who are successful, and I can spend money in a country that's more affordable. I can pay less tax because I'm tax optimized. And so if you do that, you won't need the government's bailouts. You won't need the free money. You won't need the grants. But that is something that you need to be aware of. I always find it interesting. I talk to folks who are libertarians from around the world. Now, obviously, I'm pretty libertarian, but I'm also a pragmatist. And my philosophy is it's pretty easy to be like a Dutch libertarian, right? When everything is very well handled, it's easy to talk about how the virtues of libertarianism. One thing that I tell people when they come to some of these emerging countries is, everything's not going to be perfectly arranged for you. I had a friend of mine come visit me in Tbilisi, Georgia, and he was walking down the sidewalk. Now, the roads in Georgia in general are actually pretty well paved. I mean, if you drive on some of the highways, it's pretty nice, better than parts of the United States even. But, occasionally you'll walk around the sidewalk and there'll be a pothole, it'll be uneven, or something happened, or someone dropped something, and they're not going to have 6 cones perfectly laid around it with a sign saying, don't step on this, or don't walk into the hole. There's not going to be a caution sign everywhere you go. Because this is personal responsibility in action. Look where you're going, they'd say, if you fell into the little pothole and then you complained. Now, in the Western world, they'd have 9 government workers come over and spend a whole day, perfectly arranging everything, and okay. And you pay for that, right? If you want to go to a place where the tax rate is 9%, then most things are going to work. But, some of those things where they go overboard aren't going to exist. And so this is the kind of the change that you're going to see, where I think, people are used to things in their country where, again, they're used to, hey, I'm starting a business and I can get grant money. Or, hey, I'm starting a business, or I have a business and, tough times, where's the government to help me? If you strike off on your own, there ain't no government to help you, right? I can promise you, if you're incorporating your company in one of what they're calling the tax havens, if you're incorporating your company in Mauritius or the UAE or Panama, those governments ain't giving you money when times get tough. It's like, hey, what do we care, right? You're paying us nothing. You're paying us almost nothing. What do you want from us? And so those are the changes, right? People who invest, right? They invest in stocks. They go overseas, they have a bad year, the market goes down, for example. They're like, oh, how do I get my tax write-off? What tax write-off? You're not paying almost any tax, if any tax, right? There's no tax write-off, right? You're entirely on your own. It's not like, so the mindset has to entirely change, both from a financial and business point of view, and also from a personal point of view. Now, obviously, there are so many places you can choose from to go where you're treated best. You do not have to move to Tbilisi, Georgia, or Montenegro, or Belgrade, or any of the more emerging, European destinations we talk to. You can move to a place where everything is just so, like a Dubai, for example. So you have a choice. But what I do want you to really be aware of is there's going to be a change, and I think that out here in the real world of going where you're treated best is where the real libertarianism is. I'm not eligible for anyone's free health insurance. and I don't want it. What do? I buy private health insurance. It's much cheaper than it would be in the West because I'm living in affordable countries. I buy travel insurance for places where I travel to short term. And largely, I just pay. Even though I have health insurance and I could use it, when I go to the hospital to get services or I go to the doctor, they ask you, do you want to use insurance? No, it's not worth it because it's affordable enough for me to simply pay out of pocket for top quality service providers that you probably wouldn't do in the United States. The prices in some of the places where I'm going are 5 or 10% as much as they would be in some developed economies. And so it's easier just to pay. And because I'm living in an ecosystem where I control my expenses, I control how much money is going out, and I live more intentionally, I have a lot more free cash flow to be able just to pay for it, rather than living in a system where people are more often required to take the government's handouts with the government's conditions. So I'm not entitled to free health care. If I'm going to send my kids to school, I'm generally going to pay for that. Or I'm going to send them to a private school, or I'm going to hire a private tutor, right? When I retire, I better have enough money to retire. Now, I lived in the United States for a number of years. I guess I'll get about $1,000 a month in Social Security. And we'll see if that is around or if I'm eligible for it at that point, or if $1,000 will still get you anything. But beyond that, I'm responsible. That is the change. And I think that theoretically saying we want the government out of our lives, we're willing to take responsibility is great. Actually doing it, actually being out here where nothing is handed to you, it is a bit of a different experience for folks. Actually being out in a world where, if you slip and fall on a banana peel on the sidewalk, you're not going to sue anybody. And I've had the opportunity to help a few folks who've gotten, large legal settlements for various things over the years. And I really feel for them because in some cases, they've had some real problems. And, fortunately, that happened in a place where they could get that settlement. In a lot of places in the world, you're not, right? So you really got to be careful. You really have to make sure that you can take care of yourself. For me, that's one reason why I like, when I'm giving, I like giving to, people where there isn't some of this infrastructure to take care of people as adequately. Because they don't have the opportunities that folks in the West would. But if you're a successful entrepreneur, if you're a successful investor and you want to go where you're treated best, keep these things in mind. You really have to be intentional, not only in the way that you're living to get these great benefits, but you want to make sure you're paying attention. You want to make sure you're well covered, and you're really involving the private sector much more. Again, there's a different feeling, theoretical. I grew up in the United States from age 14, 15 years old. Everything Libertarian Party. I remember driving over to a guy's house once, getting a yard sign to put in. I convinced my dad, let me put a yard sign for the Libertarian candidate, who of course would get blown out in the election, to put that in our yard. Now I look at kind of this real libertarianism, and I'm all for it. But I want you to understand kind of the theoretical versus real world difference. And I think those are some things that are worth keeping in mind. If there are other examples that you've seen of this, leave a comment below. I know a lot of you guys are out there living life, in a way that is like what I'm talking about. Leave a comment. I want to hear about your experiences. What do you think you can add? What do you think I'm missing? Leave a comment, and I want to hear from you. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.